Hi, good afternoon. Very warm welcome to everybody who is joining us. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning for people who are joining us from around the world. I've seen a very good response for this webinar. This is the third this is third month of our webinar series that we have been hosting at OP Jindal Global University. We have hosted about 50 plus educators from around the world, and I'm very happy to be hosting one of some of the leading educators from one of my favorite parts of the country, one which I have not traveled too much, but I'm really interested in knowing more about. Now we have with us some distinguished personalities who will be talking about education in Northeast India. We have Mrs. Nellie Ahmed, who is the founder and managing trustee of Maria's Public School. Mrs. Ahmed will be joining us shortly. She has some technical issues, but we are expecting her to join any minute now. We have Mr. Abhinav Gogoi, the Vice President of Eastern Region of Inspirus Education. We have Mr. Joutishman Dutta with us, Managing Trustee, Assam Downtown University, Assam. Mr. Kousik Biswas, the principal of UNACCO School, Imphal in Manipur. Unfortunately, Ms. Prabhuti Biswas could not join us due to health issues. We look forward to having her in our future webinars. We will be talking about education in Northeast India, experiences and challenges. I have traveled, as I said, not much in Northeast India. The regions that I have traveled to, this only city that I have traveled to is Guwahati, and this was the first year that I went there, and I was very impressed with the kind of education facilities that were available to students in that city. I am hoping to go back to the city and the region post COVID-19 when things get down to normal. But in the meanwhile, I thought it's very, very interesting to have some of the key leaders of the education sector from that part of the world talking about their region, the education opportunities and challenges that are faced by them every day in making sure that their students get the best education possible. May I request my panelists to mute themselves because there is a lot of disturbance coming in. If you can all mute yourself, that will be really helpful. I can hear a lot of disturbances. Thank you so much. Mr. Biswas, if you can also mute yourself. There is disturbance coming in. I think there is. Okay, I think it will go away. Disturbance. Okay, so talking about northeast of India. Sorry, I think there is. Sorry, I think there was some disturbance. I've got it under control. Yeah, so we're talking about northeast of India. Northeast of India consists of 8 states. First, when I used to study in school, it was like 7 sisters, and now if I dare may so I add here 7 sisters and 1 brother in Sikkim. So we have Assam, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Manipur, Mizoram, and Sikkim as the 8 states that make up northeast of India. Now, if you see the map of India, definitely after the partition of India in 1947, and I have some demographics. Partition in 1947 played a detrimental role in transforming the economic landscape of the region, which was till 1947 at the forefront of development. The immediate impact of partition on Northeast was that it was cut off from the rest of the country, especially with the creation of Bangladesh. And prior to Bangladesh, East Pakistan, there were a lot of natural ports that were cut off from this part of the country, and that led to the region being impeded with certain difficulties, such as becoming landlocked region. There was inadequate infrastructure, adverse climate conditions, and mountainous landscape. The region peace and social life was also thankfully it's not the case these days, but it was also disturbed by border clashes and ethnic tensions. So The opportunities definitely exist in the region. The region has 7% of the country's total land space and only 3.7% of the country's population, which gives it a distinct demographic edge over the rest of. It's a phenomenal biodiversity, forest world, agro-based fruits, vegetables, tea, exotic flowers, and whole lot of biodiversity that is available. Large variety of agriculture produce, rice, maize, millets, sugar cane, jute. So the region has definitely got potential, but definitely those potential has been underutilized over the last many years. It is also strategically located for foreign and domestic inverters to tap the vast contiguous markets of Myanmar, China. As we say, the Southeast Asian countries definitely are in the range of the region that we are talking about today. Unparalleled tourist attractions. We all know the kind of tourist attractions that exist all over Northeast. We all know about the Kaziranga National Park and Guwahati and Assam, but there are definitely untapped opportunities in tourism also in that part of the world. We have also got in potential to be India's powerhouse. The region has hydropower potential estimated at nearly 50,000 megawatt, natural gas reserves of 190 billion cubic meters, and coal reserves and many other mineral reserves that can be very useful in development of that part of the region. In terms of higher education institutions, the 8 states in the Northeast consist of many colleges and universities. The number one candidate in terms of private universities are Meghalaya and Arunachal Pradesh with 8 and 7 private universities, and I'm talking about the private universities. In terms of state university, it's Assam with 12 state universities available, and this is as per the UGC annual report in the year 2016 to 2017, and there are more than 500 plus colleges in Assam alone. So definitely we have a good setup of higher education infrastructure available, but that is not, as it's true for every part of the country, that is not able to cope up with the increasing demand of high quality education and opportunities that the students from this part of the world are looking towards. We have I just went through the CBSE schools in Northeast list. We have the maximum number of CBSE schools in Arunachal with 319, and then we have Assam with 285. One of the colleagues, Joutishman, Dutta, who is one of the speakers, told me that Arunachal doesn't have its own state boards. That's why it has the maximum number of CBSE schools. Thank you so much. I didn't know that. But with regards to CBSE schools, you see a healthy number of schools in at least 4 of these states. In 3 of them, we have 200 plus schools, and Tripura has 61 schools. Manipur again has 74 CBSE schools. So definitely, and we are seeing a growth in terms of the CBSE schools in this part of the world, but there are definitely challenges in higher and secondary education in Northeast India with regards to inadequate physical infrastructure, brain drain, which directly affect the quality of teaching. When now the quality students are leaving the region because they do not find good number of well-to-do institutions, they definitely leads to a drain in terms of teaching resources too. Insufficient number of institutions, lack of industry support, since the region doesn't have many industry. It definitely affects the internship and placement opportunities of educational institutions in this part of the world. And lack of financial support. There are not many investment coming in the education sector, which also affects the running of those institutions. Lack of research opportunities. Definitely, when you don't have the financial support, when you don't have the industry support, when you do not have good quality teachers or students staying back in the region, then you definitely face, you will not have good research opportunities. Students and parents look towards metro cities for higher education, which is the case for both school and higher education institutions in this part of the country. But definitely there are positives which are coming under the from the government of India, and we see every day there are every 2 weeks or so, or a week so, we talk about, the government talks about Northeast, and these are some of the snippets of the recent the policy statements that came out of our government. They want to make Northeast the gateway to Southeast Asia under Act East policy. Government is reaching out to remotest parts of Northeast India. Northeast development prosperity priority for the present day government. So there are a lot of positives coming out of the government, and there are, when I talk to some of my friends in this part of the world, they tell me that things are moving, maybe not as fast as they would like, but things are definitely moving in the right direction. So that's the start that I wanted to put in the context for this conversation. I don't see Miss Nellie here with us yet.
Yeah, I'm there. Hear me?
Yes, we can hear
you?
you, ma'am, but we can't see
Yeah.
you. If you can switch on your camera.
Yeah, camera is on, but well, I don't see myself on the screen. While I fix this, can you go on to Joutishman?
Yeah, I will. So probably I will like to begin with our first panelist in Mr. Joutishman Dutta. I like to formally introduce him. Joutishman Dutta is currently the managing trustee of Downtown Charity Trust. The trust operates one of the largest universities in Eastern India, the Downtown University. The trust is also involved in various skills and livelihoods projects across the region. They have also started the process of starting schools across the region. They want to work on various aspects of education and social innovation and training in the region to contribute in improving the human resources in the area of Northeast. It's a pleasure to have you as a panelist on this webinar. Mr. Datta, if you can go ahead and share your thoughts on the topic of the day.
Very good evening to everyone present, to my colleagues, and I believe whoever is joining us. Well, I'll firstly like to thank Ankur and OP Jindal that you are willing to actually talk about a topic which needs as much exposure as possible, Northeast. Now, there is more or less awareness in India. There is something called Northeast. There is a part of India called Northeast. There's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of interest, but that needs to be brought up to as many platforms as possible. What actually is the Northeast? What is the deal with the Northeast? What had caused the problems and what makes us unique in its own way? I'd like to start with a very small story about how the group came to doing what we are doing. Somewhere in the 80s, in the height of insurgency, one of our founders had this yearning to do something on his own. There was not even a single private hospital. Our founder is a doctor in Assam at that point of time. So somewhere he thought, I don't have a choice, but I have to build my own clinic to actually work for no other reason because there was nothing else. So that clinic slowly became a hospital, and then the hospital had this unique problem. There were no nursing institutes and no paramedical institutes in Assam. So if you need to grow, you can get doctors because medical colleges are always emphasized by the government. So you have doctors, but you have no support staff. So you cannot grow if you do not have support staff. So they created the first training infrastructure of this group began as an in-house training institute. We had to, in fact, train nurses and paramedics in our journey from going to a small nursing home to a 300-bedded multi-specialty hospital. That is it. We had no intent of entering into training. We had no intent of entering into education. Just this lack of choice made us become a training company indirectly or a training organization indirectly. Then as the early 2000s began, I believe we saw a lot of changes in Northeast. Insurgency has waned to an extent which was unbelievable even 20 years ago. We couldn't have expected that would go down so much. Things became normal. When things became normal, yes, economically also things became much better. The 90s and the early 2000s, we only had students going out from the Northeast to study. Why? Because there was nothing here. 50 years after independence, there were practically no private institutes in the higher education sphere. I'm only talking about higher education. For whatever may the reason, because of this problem, no one wanted to take a risk with investing so much and to set up an institute. So the biggest problem was there was already a mindset embedded in Northeast that you had to go out for everything because there was nothing here. Why there was nothing? There was no clear-cut reason as to why there was nothing. Definitely it was due to the insurgency-related problems. So somewhere in the 2000, as a group, we thought that yes, our in-house training institutes are doing well, but it has no scale. Our scale is only for us because we did not want to take a risk of building larger scale institutes where we had to hire a lot of students and invest in a lot of infrastructure. So somewhere illogically, we took a step that let's build a large human resource infrastructure. The plan was not to open a university, to open training institutes or colleges. When we started, there was no concept of private university in Assam. So in most regard, it was a very illogical decision. There was no planning done because if we planned it, the investment would have not made sense. So somewhere we just bought land and we thought, let's go ahead. So in that purpose, as we were also thinking that these are the problems, I think the government of India and the Assam government also thought that this problem is there. So they came up with the Assam Private University Act. So did Meghalaya, so did Arunachal, so did Tripura, and so did Mizoram. I'm talking about somewhere around 2005, 2006. Then they felt the need that yes, the government sector alone, we cannot, it's not possible for us to take in all the students in this region. So then the Assam Private University Act came, and luckily for us, we were coincidentally building a campus, maybe to affiliate with Guwahati University or some other university. Luckily for us, we were at the right time, and hence because of that, we could be the second university in Assam to be given a private university status way back in 2009-2010. Hence the journey began. Journey began with only intention of training nursing and paramedical. We increased the scale so that we could train beyond us, maybe for the government sector, for other hospitals. From that to here today, now we have around 50 odd programs, 6,000 students actively on campus as of today. How did it happen? I don't know. Honestly, there is no clear-cut logical answer because that was never the aim. We don't know what the aim was. We were just taking one step at a time. There are a lot of challenges I think every education institute will face. I don't want to go into that because more or less, no matter what the institute does, even if it's in Delhi or Chennai, more or less some problems are the same. I think we face more or less the same problems. I want to go to where the problems are unique to us and unique to Northeast. When we open a university in Assam, for maybe if you talk about NCR or Pune or Bangalore, it's no big deal. Something is opening every year. 10 universities are opening every year. What's a big deal? It's a big deal because there is no precedence. We do not have admin staff who has any idea how to run actually a private institute. So the learning curve that we had to undertake was much longer. We practically had to self-teach us the processes, and we got them wrong. Obviously, we got them wrong most of the time. With a lot of help of family, friends, and a lot of help that we had, we could also understand what are the systems available in Delhi, systems available in Bangalore, and we kind of adopted that. The biggest challenge was not buying the land and building the campus. Honestly, what is the big deal in setting up an education institute? You just need land, building, and teachers. Those three components were not the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge was 50,000, 60,000 students were leaving Northeast every year. To convince them, now you can stay back. They will ask you a question, how can I be assured that I'll stay back? I'll give you 3 to 4 years of my life, the most crucial years of my life. You do not have infrastructure to match Bangalore and Delhi. Absolutely right. You do not have faculty who are already teaching, who already know what to teach, right? There is no placement in Northeast, right? That's a fact that there's nothing we can do as an institute do about. We have a fresh campus, we have fresh faculty, and we have a lot of startups and new commercial enterprises coming up in Northeast at that point of time. They're still coming up. Obviously, in the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a huge growth in terms of organizations. But obviously, a few hundred people trust you the year one, and now that's gone to 2,000 to 3,000 families trusting you every year. So along with the institute, we have only been able to grow because also Northeast is growing. From having 3%, 2% GDP growth, Assam is now averaging 8 to 9%, a miracle. So now we have a pharma hub coming up in Guwahati. We have a mini food and packaging industries coming up in Guwahati. So somewhere education, the ecosystem has to also grow with the manufacturing and other ecosystem. Because if an education institute comes up, we will need jobs. If factories come up, they'll need people. So it's like a chicken and the egg. A lot of factories did not want to set up shop in Assam was that they thought, where will we get engineers? Assam produces 300 engineers, so no IT company can actually come up here. It's not viable, which is absolutely understandable. So somewhere in this race, a lot of illogical decisions by some groups like us, government, a lot of private institutes came up or colleges came up. And now more or less there is some system of private education right now in Guwahati, in Assam, and also in Northeast. As you mentioned, a lot of groups, a lot of Christian missionary groups, a lot of local groups in Meghalaya and Arunachal have also taken this step. Similar journey for all of them. And they said, let's set up a campus. It is quite shocking that we did not think in a span of 10 years that so much people would actually be believing in us. Now, from that case, when we had to convince, we are still convincing a lot of people. I don't think the most people who are passing the class 10 or 12 are still convinced that Northeast is an option. But to date, more people are much more convinced that, yes, this is an option. We can stay here. You will always have centers of excellence in Delhi, in Bangalore. For law, it might be this. For humanities, it might be this. That will always remain. As a university, you can never compete in everything and anything. But today, we can say that few of our departments are perhaps one of the most sought after, not only in Assam, and across Eastern India. Today, I would have never expected 10 years ago, we are getting students from Bihar, North Bengal, Chhattisgarh, Orissa. We don't know that would have been possible, but it became possible. Placements was the biggest concern. First question we had to answer is, do you have faculty? People are convinced we have faculty. Do you have classrooms? We have classrooms. Placements. I don't know why. Maybe it is because of this whole awareness created with regard to Northeast. A lot of corporates, most corporates have a very lenient approach towards recruiting from Northeast. Last 3 to 4 years, every corporate we have approached, they say, again, we have gone online much before coronavirus, not for any other reason. We had no industry interfaces, Assam. Now, company like Wipro, they said we want to come to Northeast, but it's not viable enough to come down and fly down. So let's take interviews firstly on webinar based or something like that. So this has been going on for us for the last 3 to 4 years, just because we did not have scale here. Luckily for coronavirus, when it came to those things, we were not hit. We were always working on a blended model just due to lack of opportunities. So when coronavirus hit us, we were not actually excelling there because we already had set up those hardware and softwares because we didn't have a choice. So now placements has been a miracle. This year we've had companies. Obviously, these are not local companies. Local companies have been recruiting because that has gone up in certain sectors alone. Amazon has decided that they want to hire 300 people only from Northeast. So these are targets that these corporates have also been very helpful. Somehow Northeast today, insurgency is gone. The stigma of insurgency remains as such. So I think it is the whole ecosystem in India. I would believe these corporates are also playing a large role, that they want to help. They want to contribute in every way possible. For that, I'm very, very thankful. They can get those 300 people for their Hyderabad office very well in Hyderabad. You know how many colleges are there in Hyderabad. They actually don't need to make the effort to come down from Hyderabad to Guwahati to actually recruit. But a small example is Amazon. There are many others. They're actually making that effort, visiting our campus and other campuses 3 to 4 times a year, just with a conscious effort. Yes, we want to recruit from the Northeast. So that has been the biggest help and the biggest unsuspecting help. That is one thing we were not sure. We thought we'll go to South, we'll go to Delhi, we'll hire faculty. How do you get jobs? I cannot set up an IT park in Guwahati. We cannot set up factories in Guwahati. But this mindset in the last 2 to 3 years has been an unbelievable blessing for us. So that has helped this university, not only us, I think more or less every university or education institute in Northeast had been greatly helped by this. There's a thriving placement culture has come up here, and that has definitely impacted the trust people have in these local institutes and is definitely impacting the admissions of these local institutes. But still, I believe majority are still not convinced. There is still a huge flow of students going abroad, sorry, outside, not abroad, and also some abroad. So that I believe there is still a huge scale of growth that is possible. I think the new education policy talks about a GR of 50%. Assam today is much lower than the national average. So if we need to achieve at par with Maharashtra, Punjab, we need to grow at twice or thrice the speed. I don't know what the plan is, but I'm sure the central government and the state government would have a plan. So I see only optimism in the journey forward. I do not see anything would be lacking. I think there would be effort from the governments as well as the private sector. Like a organization that us, we took a risk. Initially, I don't know, in simple terms, the investment we made was twice the net worth of the group. We just took a jump without any logic. Now we have confidence that yes, this can work. And with us, there are many other organizations, most local. In Assam today, surprising is every university is only backed by a local organization. Every factory here is backed by a national organization. Every large scale industrial park is backed by a Delhi based or a Bangalore based organization. But every education organization, which also takes huge sizable investment, is only backed by a local entrepreneur. Because somewhere when we started, no one believed that this is possible. Because if that belief was there, I believe a lot of these larger groups from Delhi, Bangalore, Bombay would have definitely come forward and invest. So there somewhere the story lies that what we achieved, we don't believe. What everyone achieved in Northeast, none of us believe. Why did it happen? Great, but it's great that it's happened finally. So this is all I have to say. There is so much to say, but I can only give you gist of this journey and what has happened. There's a lot to go ahead. The first 10 years of survival is done. Sometimes we pinch ourselves, how did it happen? Why did it happen? But it happened thanks to help. You can call it help, you can call it luck, you can call it good management, whatever you call it, it happened. Now we are right now going for the next 10 years. 10 years is the next 10 years is not about survival. We don't want to survive. Now the question is we want to excel. We want to be like the best ones in Delhi. We want to be like the best ones in Bangalore, the best ones in Pune, set up the best systems, the best IT infrastructure, best technology backed teaching, the best faculty, and crack all the ranks that can be are actually provided right now by the government. So the next 10 years is the bigger challenge, because it's not to survive, it's to excel. So that is the next phase of our journey. I believe when I speak for downtown, it's not just downtown I'm talking about. More or less the journeys of every education organization here is more or less the same. So every journey is going to be more or less the same. So for the time being, this is all I have to say. I hope there are more interesting things you have to ask and others have to ask. I'll be very happy to actually answer as many questions about Northeast, any aspects as much as possible. We spent our lives, I think Abhinav and me from college, firstly answering what is Assam, then where is Assam, what is in Assam. So indirectly we spent half our lives addressing what Northeast is. It still goes on, but obviously now there is much more awareness. But I think even if this live goes in addressing these queries, it'll be fine. So that's all I have to say, Ankur, for the time being. Thank you for the opportunity. We'll get to more questions later on.
Thank you, Mr. Dutta. That's some interesting remarks and insightful remarks, and I definitely understand your, the questions that you have been asked because of you being from Northeast. I was just seeing a video from the, and recently a video came out from the Prince of Tripura, and he talked about how the national media is not covering Northeast and the floods in Northeast. So I think I feel the pain and angst, and this continues. The cycle continues. I think for somebody who's sitting in Delhi, the only news we get from Northeast are this national park in Assam and the floods that happen every year. Those are the kind of newses that come in, and that's a sad part. But yeah, that's the reality of something. Somebody.
Don't mind. We always, I don't know. There's two huge conflict zones in India. One is Kashmir, one is Northeast. Kashmir, I don't want to comment on, but Northeast has been the biggest success stories. 20 years ago, you cannot imagine today. Independence Day is celebrated in Guwahati, even Manipur, Arunachal, in ways it is celebrated in Delhi for the last 30, 40 years. Where did the mindset change? I don't know, but it has changed. The mindset has changed, and it's not going to go back to those bad days that were there in the 70s and 80s. If this has been one of the biggest success stories of the Indian government or the Indian state, it has been this. Northeast is
Absolutely, I agree.
Than it was ever before. So this is a value that we should never let go of this opportunity and never ever make this mistake that we did about 50, 60 years ago.
And I was also reading about Northeast and the region for this, and I was preparing for this webinar, and I read that the first IIT was set up only in 1994 in Guwahati, and it said the Northeast region only has one IIT, and that was also after the Assam Accord that Rajiv Gandhi signed.
Yeah, 15-year agitation.
So that just baffles me.
IIT, NIFT, IIM in Shillong, NLU. So you can understand the change that has happened. And also taste.
Brilliant.
So every sector, there is the best one in India is actually available in Guwahati.
Yes. So happy to see that those positive developments happening, and I'm so happy to hear positive words coming from somebody who represents this region. I will now quickly move on to, and I'll come back to you, but we'll move on to Mr. Biswas so that we can continue with our presentation. Mr. Kousik Biswas, and I'll do a formal introduction before handing it over to him. Mr. Biswas is the principal of UNACCO school in Imphal in Manipur. He is a leader from West Bengal with experience in school management and administration in two reputed schools, namely Bishop Westcott School and Delhi Public School Panipat Refinery. He has total 20 years of experience. He has conducted a lot of training programs, and he has been a resource person for a lot of seminars and webinars. He has been a keynote speaker at multiple locations. He is a very well-known personality in the education sector in India and now in Northeast. Sir, if you can start your presentation, we are eager to hear from you.
Very good afternoon to each and everybody. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Well, so first of all, that I would like to talk about this Northeast. I would definitely like to talk about myself and the relation to the Northeast. The thing is that I came to this Northeast 5.5 years ago. I was in Panipat Refinery, Delhi Public School. So then after that, I was interviewed in Kolkata, and then I joined this UNACCO school. And since 2015, 15th of March, I am in Manipur. I am in Imphal, that's capital of Manipur. And now, after spending about 5.5 years, I would just like to tell you about my experience a little bit, if you don't mind. Well, see, the most important thing is, first, let me tell you about the people, that is the parents whom I am daily dealing with, the teachers, the parents, the local people. I find myself, they are wonderful. See, I am from Durgapur. Okay, I'm not from this place. I'm from Durgapur, and let me tell you that once in every 6 months, okay, I go home in the month of June and December only for 7 or 8 days. Okay, and then I return back, I resume my duty. Okay, so let me tell you openly, with an open heart, I never feel longing in the middle when I'm in Manipur. Okay, This is simply because of the cooperation and the people with whom I deal, with whom I live here. I tell you frankly, they are wonderful, they are very helpful, and the parents, now let me tell you about the parents whom I am in daily dealing with. See, I meet with the parents generally in the PTI, plus sometimes they take some special appointment also, and they meet with me regularly. I'm in touch with them. They advise me. I would like to say now regarding about their expectation, I would like to mention something that they have a dream. The way they tell me, the way they advise me, the way they advise to the principal of their children, they really have a dream. Okay, and they are very sensitive towards their words. Whatever things are going on in the school, whatever things are given from the school, the homework, class, whatever it may be, the daily things, daily routine works, they are very sensible. They are they always remain to be in touch with us. Okay, so the thing is that some problems, yes, of course, are there. I would like to say that, for example, yes, it's correct, as Mr. Dutta said, a time was there, definitely. Even I don't have so much of experience of here, but I have many of my friends who are in the army and who had stayed in this Manipur since 10 years, 15 years. So what Mr. Dutta said, I support. A time was there. It was in 2002 or maybe Mr. Dutta, I think in 2004 or 5 also, is not it? Okay, it was height of insurgency. Lots of problems were there. Okay, I hear, I get the feedback, I know all these things. Okay, but the present situation, let me tell you, totally under control. Yes, the scent is there. Okay, definitely that rumor is also there. Somewhere, something, definitely it takes a little bit of time for everything to, a particular thing, if you want to move it out or if you want to erase it out totally, it takes a lot of time. Okay, it requires time. I hope you all will agree with this particular thing. Am I right? Is not it? So the thing is that now the situation is fully under control, and we have the teachers, the parents of Northeast. So now regarding the problems, here some problems are there. The government schools, yes, they are not. It happens. I should not say about Northeast. Why should I say about Northeast? In everywhere in India, they are not functioning to the fullest, to their fullest potential. So quality education, definitely there are some problems. Quality education is lacking. Due to this, it's true that after the 10+2, a time was there when the people or even the BPL persons, they used to send their people outside, as Mr. Dutta said. It's true, it happened. But now situation has developed. Now, due to many of the private schools have opened, and I have seen that many of the missionary groups, okay, we have St. Joseph Convent, we have St. Mary's, okay, many of the famous reputed missionary groups, they have come in the Northeast, and in Manipur also I have seen. I'm in touch with them. Okay, so we are doing, and the schools are running well. Yes, in the government sectors, there some of the necessary changes are there. It's everywhere in India. Okay, so some of the changes are needed. So the efforts are being done, and now the time has come, okay, to take some concrete decision, because now at present, in my opinion, there is no need. I do not feel that the students need to go out of Manipur, okay, or the students need to go out of Northeast to for higher studies. Every facilities are there. Okay, and yes, I see that this CBSE, many of the excellence in education programs, regularly the teachers are, we are conducting programs. The other schools are also, the Sahodaya schools are also, we are jointly conducting the teaching programs, the seminars, webinars, regularly those things are going on. So at present, definitely I would like to say that if this continues, and it will definitely continue because things are improving and definitely everything will improve. So if this continues, then I'm sure that means there will be no need for the children to go out, and it will definitely, this Northeast will definitely turn into a hub of excellence. I'm sure about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Biswas. for that insightful presentation. Sorry, I missed it. I was with other panelists trying to sort the technical issues, but I'm sure it would have been useful. I'd like to move on to my next speaker, Abhinav. I would like to formally introduce Abhinav. Give me a second, just. Okay, so this is Abhinav's bio. Interdisciplinarity, internationalism, and education without prejudice are values that Abhinav adheres to. He is a multifaceted personality who is an IB graduate from Mahindra United World College of India and completed his, just a second, Abhinav. Yes, and completed his higher studies at Jacobs University, Bremen, and University Bremen, Germany, in marine geosciences and climate research. He has traveled extensively around the world doing multiple research projects across the Arctic and the Antarctic and other oceans and seas of Europe, primarily working in climate research. During his time in Europe, he also worked extensively in the TESL, TFL, GMAT, GRE test prep with multiple organizations. He was keen to give back to the communities that he has come from, to have structured his holistic growth. Hence, he joined his alma mater, the Assam Valley School, as the head of careers department, teacher of environmental sciences, as well as theater and dramatics. He also passionately partakes in the regional film and theater industry of Assam. Time permitting, more importantly, his penchant always lay in creating a holistic education and career guidance support system for students in India. He brings with him a decade of experience from Europe and across India to career guidance and test preparation. He is known to be experimental in his strategies, works without any prejudice, very proactive and approachable to his students. It's an honor to have you here with us, Abhinav. If you can go ahead and share your thoughts on the topic of the day.
I hope I'm audible, and thank you so much, Ankur, for
Yes.
giving me that a nice introduction, actually. And I mean, of course, I'm the son of the soil, so to say. I was born in a place called Namrup, which is actually an industrial town, which had three industries: a petrochemical, a fertilizer industry, and a hydroelectric power dam, which none of the industries were actually set up by the Assam government. It was all set up by the central government, and now unfortunately that industrial town with three big industries is a dead town. It's like a ghost town because all those industries have also moved off. And this has happened primarily not just because of the disinvestment that has happened over the course of the years in the Northeast, but also because of these, Joutishman had pointed out, in terms of insurgency and so on. So instead of going into all of those talks, I want to focus a little bit more on education today and what are my views on the region about that. And for which I will just list out a few points. What it was basically sort of, after I got the topic, I reached out to quite a few parents, quite a few educators from across the world who's worked in Assam or are from Assam. And I asked that's to their experience in the region. So there are a few things that have come out, and I want to list those out before. I mean, I think that will sort of give us a more sort of idea what people are thinking about the region also. So in terms of cons of the education in the Northeast, the cons or the disadvantages that people felt were inadequate infrastructure, very difficult climate conditions. Of course, the mountainous landscape does not help, and more importantly, the border classes and ethnic tensions that have prevailed into the diaspora of this society here. The pros or the advantages that have always been is the fact that the region is endowed with very, very rich biodiversity and natural resources, which of course we are all trying to exploit. Additionally, also the literacy rate in some of these states is actually above the rest of the country. And because there's so much involvement in culture of folklore, people do have a good sense of understanding of what nature, what the world can give them. So there's a lot of respect among people and among cultures. The linkage that has happened over this education system and the backdrop of the whole scenario in the Northeast is that there are skilled human resources, which is what is required to exploit these local resources that we have, which is tea, timber, if it's tourism, oil, coal, other bioresources, and there's immense potential for this economic progress of the region. And when we say economic progress, I mean it's a wholesome, holistic progress, which will imbibe the culture of industrialization or sustainable industrialization, as well as imbibe the culture of sustainable higher education, as Joutishman had also put forward before. And of course, in all of these things, quality higher education is a prerequisite for creation and development of these skilled human resources who ideally want to stay here. So right now, in fact, in my capacity as the Vice President of Inspirus Education, and also I do have I do have an organization locally also where we are working with the Assam government to develop their vocational and skill development training right now. But this is only happening in Assam. I don't know how much it is happening in across the other states, but of course it's a start. Now, I also, some of the sort of people that I connected with also pointed out there's a very distinct rural and urban difference in the region. In the rural setup, which is most of the region here, there are most of the students that are studying in the school are first-time learners and schoolgoers in the region, which basically means that a lot of the parents have not ever gone to school from this region in the rural setup. Okay, I see this not just in the state-run government schools or schools that are for the ECW classes, but also at a top school like the Assam Valley School, where I worked with previously, where I and Joutishman were actually students there. I think from 1995 to about 5-6 years down the line. So even in there, we saw a lot of, in my capacity as a teacher and had a career there also, we've seen a lot of parents that have never gone to school, and yet their children are studying in premium schools such as the Assam Valley School. And this is prevailed across the rural setup. In the urban setting, however, like in Guwahati, where you look at Jorhat, or the big urban settings like in Silchar or Dibrugarh, but there are too many schools actually. We don't need actually so many schools in this urban setup. And this has only happened because there's too few checks that are being done either by the board themselves or the state government to check how good these schools are. So there is no sort of sense in the education system. There is no system that is prevailing in the system, in the education sphere in schools. And I think Joutishman already pointed out in terms of university, so I will not talk about that. So the main three issues, the top three issues that people say that they face in this region are inadequate physical infrastructure. Other issue that have come up is teacher problem, or that, which basically means that not many want to come and work here, and there's a lack of job guaranteed courses, which obviously stems from the idea that there's a lack of industry. Now, I also asked them how to solve these issues. And these are the three most important things that have come out from this survey, where they say that number one is establishing a relationship between job and education, which is not happening actually in most schools in the country, not just in the Northeast. So it's a problem of our whole system in India, and not just in Northeast. Second is more support and funds. And where are these funds going to come from? That is a big question. Of course, in order to create higher education institutions, in order to create higher sort of industries, etc., I mean, there has to be some amount of investment here. And these investments obviously are being done, by private parties now, but it's in very, very small amounts. And I think that whole idea of look east policy is sounding very, very good on paper, but the development of it in practicality is very, very slow. And at the same time, we have this whole concept of industrialization, and we forget the need of sustainable development also in this factor. And I think I would speak for everyone who's on this panel also, that we in the Northeast very much believe in the idea of sustainable development. And we very much believe in the idea of keeping our nature intact as it is. So therefore, there's lots of setbacks of, building that 50 megawatt dam that Ankur had talked about at the beginning, which took about, I think, a good decade to actually get things going. We in fact opened a 6.9 kilometer bridge, which took 15 years to make, And at the same time, there was an 11.8-kilometer long bridge over the river Brahmaputra, which took also another decade. They are still in the process of building the main highway that is supposed to connect all the way from Kolkata or the West Bengal region to the heart of the Northeast and into the Stillwell Road of Burma, which is, again, if you come and visit here, probably only, let's say, about 300 odd kilometers have been well done, and rest are still in the progress. And last very important issue to solve this is the fact that there has to be some research and technological development, which can obviously only come through the concept of higher education and setting up of multiple different excellent universities in the region. Now, of course, just to summarize quickly, paucity of financial allocation, it is definitely regional backwardness. Of course, I personally feel there's a huge political negligence, and of course, poor administration in higher education institutes in the Northeast, and it has created this whole disappointing condition. But looking at this, as a startup, as a starting point, the only thing that we can do is move up, and that movement of moving up is happening, but it is happening a little slowly. Now, there are two things that these other educators also have pointed out, that we as a region, and they have advised that for students who generally tend to move out of the region, and I don't know what my audience is here at the moment, are you students or teachers or professors or other stakeholders, but for students moving out of the region, if you're listening, then it's very important that the focus would be on intermingling with others and not sticking with the people of the same region. Now, this happens when we go out of the Northeast, and we invariably tend to do this, but this is a whole big discussion on a different forum, why we tend to do this. At the same time, for the students who are staying in the region, it is very important for the schools and colleges to develop a wider worldview in their students, and especially looking at our archaic sort of teaching methodologies. And I know this is progressing very, very quickly now, because CBSE has developed their curriculum, ICSE has developed their curriculum. In fact, I know from first-hand experience that in Assam Downtown University, because I'm doing some of the soft skill workshop there, they're also doing a fabulous job in terms of promoting skill-based learning. So these concepts are still sort of in a very archaic stage at multiple schools. It's happening in the urban centers, but it is definitely not happening in the rural centers. In my capacity as a counselor, and I've been in this phase for about 5 to 6 years now, working in the region itself, I come across not just students who are from Assam Valley School or from affluent backgrounds who live in Guwahati, Jorhat, Dibrugarh, but also I work with students on a pro bono basis, with vernacular medium students also from interiors of, let's say, in Dimapur, from Nagaland, or from Tinsukia, and so on. And in all of these schools, the one thing that I've seen is that the idea of holistic education is not there, but at the same time, the motivation is also lacking. And now we have to question ourselves, why is this motivation lacking? Is it happening because the parents lack the motivation to send them to schools or colleges? Or is it happening because there's a lack of motivation on the stakeholders of colleges and schools that need to imbibe these very things into the children in order to move them up into the fast-paced world that we are already globalized world? And in terms of the right educators also, where will you find these educators? If we don't have the right higher education institutions here to teach these skills to the educators, how will the children learn from these things? And as I said already, a lot of the parents are also first time, they have never gone to school. I mean, the kids themselves are first time school goers. So how would you expect the parents also to come into this picture? So it's a huge project. It's a big dilemma. And of course, there has to be some amount of bottom-up approach rather than a top-down approach, where there are people who need to work on the ground, like the missionaries. There was this huge, beautiful concept of missionary schools in the Northeast. If you go to Meghalaya, if you go to Nagaland, lots of places in Assam, there's this lots of missionary schools in the region where they really teach the basics of humanity among children at a very young age. They do it by stick, typically, but they make you learn what is right and what is wrong. And I don't know if these modern global ideals are actually being taught in our schools. The way this whole NEP has also come into the picture. I mean, I'm sorry to say it out here, and this is just my personal opinion, nobody else's opinion. But at the bottom of NEP, one line that struck me was that they are looking at implementing the NEP from 2030 to 2040. I mean, in 10 years down the line, the whole world is going to change, and we'll be still probably stuck up on NEP. Forget about the northeast of India. So I don't know how to solve this issue, but I'm trying on my own in terms of doing it one school at a time, one region at a time, and this is how I see it to happen. And if I have a lot of respect for what Joutishman is doing, what Nellie ma'am is doing, and of course what Mr. Biswas is also doing, because they've been at it for the last, so long. And I'm only coming to the picture now, but I do understand that it is very, very important that people from outside come in to the region. And same way relating to this fact only, because if I look at Assam Valley School, it is in a very, very remote place in the middle of tea gardens, where if you need to get out of a flight from Guwahati, you still need to travel 5 hours into the village area to actually reach there. I mean, Ankur, you've been there yourself, right? So how would like a foreign university come to Assam Valley School to recruit students? How would even Indian universities come to Assam Valley School to recruit students? I mean, the pit stop is Guwahati, and then maybe Shillong, and then back, So that way, what Joutishman has done, that even before the pandemic, what was happening in terms of webinars, etc., we were also employing the same thing as Assam Valley School, where we have to talk to people outside of the region and outside of the country through webinars, through online, through networking, etc., etc. And so as I said, the necessity is the mother of all invention, right? And the sooner we feel it, the leaders of the region, the sooner, the quicker it will be. But I think it's just the fact that there's a big issue in terms of centralized education, because centralized education, personally, I feel that it sort of narrows down or reduces the creativity that decentralized education can bring up. If what Nellie ma'am can do in her school at Maria's Public, or what Joutishman can do at his school and university, or what Mr. Biswas can do at his school or university, can be set up in a very, very creative way. And if you come to schools in the Northeast, there are some wonderful schools here, very, very creative, and they're doing excellently well. If you go to Sikkim, there's a music school there, where everything is taught through music. If you go to lots of these missionary schools across Arunachal Pradesh or Nagaland or Manipur, there's lots of ideating that is done through taking the nature and imbibing it into the children, so that they learn what is nature and how to live a sustainable life. So that is my opinion on decentralized and centralized education. But at the same time, only thing that I want to summarize is that as a counselor, I've seen there's progress happening naturally, whether going abroad, or I think Joutishman also missaid, saying that going abroad out of Assam, and that is exactly what students in here in Assam, the parents also feel, or in the Northeast, that if you're going out to mainland India, it's as good as going abroad. So, and I guess those repercussions, those stigma have still stayed on, and this is what sort of created a huge barrier. As much as that whole chicken neck is actually not a physical thing, also it's actually a spiritual and mental thing also among the rest of India with the Northeast. So that sort of conglomeration, that imbibing must happen as soon as possible. And in order to get that happening, we all here, we are not going out anywhere. So please reach out to us, and we'll be happy to help you out in any which way possible to create a more global sort of holistic education system in the Northeast. So please do. That's it from me. I think I was all over the place, but I think I'm quite passionate about this region. Sorry,
no, thanks, Abhinav, and it was coming across in your thought process. I really loved hearing you, and probably you could have gone on. It was not all over the place. It was very, very interesting and insightful for us to know the insights of the region and the student drive, and what you talked about the first generation children. That's very impressive. You are right. You know, not many universities come across after Guwahati for a 2-day or 3-day thing. And I remember going to Assam Valley School, and when my colleague told me that it's like 5 hours away, I'm like, what? It's like Assam Valley School should be in the center of Guwahati, and I should have been there in 10 minutes. So it was a surprise for me, and I still remember the day I had my flight from in the evening, and I had to rush. So I think those infrastructure challenges definitely plague the region, and definitely Zoom calls were, and that's so. Thank you for telling me, Abhinav and Joutishman. Zoom calls were there even before COVID. For us, it was the first time that we started using Zoom. So
COVID has been a blessing. We used to do some classes through not Zoom, through Skype, because we didn't have resources. So students and parents used to abuse us. You are not hiring faculty, that's why you're doing it. Now the whole country is doing it, so we're very happy. So COVID has been a blessing in that way.
Yeah. Did the video get stuck?
I think Ankur's videos got stuck.
I think Nellie ma'am, I think you are
You should
next.
start when Ankur comes. We'll all like to hear your perspective on this.
I think I can give Nellie ma'am's introduction if Ankur is still stuck.
I think you go ahead.
Sorry, I think I lost you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, I lost you. My internet connection. I have 2 internet connections. Both of them failed. This is technology. Great. I hope you can hear me now, and I can go ahead with my introduction. Sorry. So I would like to quickly invite Mrs. Nellie Ahmed Tanveer, the managing trustee and the founder at Maria's Public School. I'll start with her formal introduction. Mrs. Nellie Ahmed Tanveer started her entrepreneur journey in 1988, and now in its 32nd year. Can you hear me? Hello.
Okay.
Ma'am, what did you say?
Can you hear me?
I don't know, is Ankur there or he's gone again?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have some internet problems, but I would like to, if you can hear, I'm back. I'm so sorry. I think this is a day of technical problems. We are facing technical issues today. So I'd like to start. I hope in the introduction, ma'am has not started speaking. I'd like to do the introduction. I hope I'm not interrupting. Can I start? So Mrs. Nellie Ahmed Tanveer, the managing trustee and founder at Maria's Public School. Mrs. Nellie Ahmed Tanveer started her entrepreneurial journey in 1988 and now in its 32nd year. Maria Public School imparts holistic education to nearly 3,000 students with her unique vision of learning beyond classroom and nature as our classroom. It is a round square global member school and has a long association with the British Council, which conferred the International School Award to the school for 2 consecutive periods from 2014 to 2017 and 2017 to 2020. It has collaborated with AFS India, GSA, West Virginia, among many other national and international educational agencies. Maria's Public School has been the first school in Guwahati to introduce inclusive education. It started way back in 1990 through their community service program called Community Connection Program, which is one of the major agendas in the school's curriculum. The school has been bestowed with many honors by different organizations. They have received the Rajiv Gandhi Shiromani Award in 2005, Best Entrepreneur Award in Northeast India by FICCI, and there are many more. I am not going to go into this of it, but what I have done my research on the school, and Miss Nellie, she is an icon in the Northeast with the work that she does in the sphere of social entrepreneurship in the schools, with the education sector, and what the kind of things that she does with the socially disadvantaged group of students coming from those backgrounds. Mrs. Ahmed, it's an honor and a pleasure for us at OP Jindal Global University to host you. Please go ahead and share your thoughts on that topic. We can't hear you, ma'am. You are self-muted. You have to unmute yourself, ma'am.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
audible?
please go ahead.
Right. Okay, very, very good evening to everyone, to all the panelists, and thank you, Ankur, for having me over this evening. And sorry about all the glitches and not being able to connect. However, it was very interesting to hear Joutishman and Abhinav and also Mr. Biswas. It's truly a challenging time for us in the Northeast, but these youngsters, Joutishman and Abhinav Gogoi, hats off to them. They've been at it, and I'm sure they will be doing very well. And we hope, because our students are dependent on a lot of people like them. So, well, talking about my school, yes, I started in '88 with just a student. Then it doubled up to 2, and then 4 and 10, and it was a Montessori school. And you know how? Because it was a friend of mine who just said, Nellie, why don't you start a school? And I said, oh, no, I can't do that. But they said, no, you will be able to. And that's how it just doubled up. And thanks to my family and my friends who really took up, supported me, motivated me, and that's a big thing. And therefore, it just goes on, and it went on and went on, and it just doubled up. I didn't know how. Just like Joutishman was saying, we don't know how. And I didn't know how. The children were just coming. And then we reached, up to the formal schooling, and then I was stuck. Now I didn't know which way to look. Now what to do? I have just a Montessori school. Then parents are saying that we are not going to take these children away. You have to open a different class. And therefore, that was another motivation to take it forward, and it carried on. And then I reached the middle school. Then again, I started looking left, right. I said, now what? Because the formalities were coming out. And then the parents said, no, we're not taking them. You have to open the next class. I said, but where? I don't have space, and I'm only in a rented house. They said, no, there's the veranda. You put a torja bera, this bamboo screen, and you can open a class there. We're not taking the kids away. And anyway, it grew like that. And I was very fortunate that people came forward, take my house, take this building, it's going to get constructed. And I didn't know in the blink of an eye, within 2-3 years, we had up to a number of children, and then my high school started. Then we had to get into the CBSE affiliation. That was another big challenge. It was a hard nut to crack, and I kept at it because I was focused and I knew what I wanted for Assam, and I wanted a good school because I was getting the backhand support. Parents were there with me. I had lovely teachers who worked as a team, who are still there, by the way, with me, and they're still working. And then we work very, very, professionally as well as like a family. So we all feel as one, and this is a real great teamwork. How so many awards have come to the school. I wouldn't attribute it only to myself. I would attribute it completely to my team of teachers, to my parents who have given us so much of motivation and hope that we could go further. Then comes the affiliation, which I was granted in 1997. And then there was no looking back. There was, it carried on and on and on. And fortunately, we had very good results since then. It was excellent right through. Even in this year, we had 98.9% as the highest toppers, 2 of the kids. But besides that, 90% were for 60 students. And, the results have been tremendously very good. And by God's grace, I would say that this year with the lockdown and with the pandemic, I don't know how, again, we've had number of students increasing as far as admissions are going. And till today, we do not advertise for our school because it was like a, word of mouth saying that go to Maria's. So we were very happy in doing what we were able to do in delivering the best academic quality education. And having said that, as we were progressing, we were granted the British Council award because we were working towards it. The children were at it, the teachers were at it. And then the round square came, which Joutishman and I think Abhinav knows about the round square ideals and how we got this in 2 months' time. They came and inspected, and we got this membership to the round square school, which is 33 countries around the world, and we are part of that. So truly, we are a global school today, and we feel very happy and proud. Yet, I would like to say that we don't really go around saying we're a global school, but we really are connected to a local primary school where one of the main mantras is to keep the community connected going. After all, we want the empathy, we want knowledge sharing, we want to have the community with us so that children know how to spread, how to give back to the community, how they can help. And that's why on the 2nd of October, we call it the Langar Khana, and they come and have lunch with us. The little children serve them. So all those things go on. Plus, we have the IAYP program, which is the International Youth People's Program. And that, I think Assam Valley School also had it. And these are adventure trips for children to have the survival tactics. This is to teach them beyond the classroom. And that is one of our school's motto, to take learning beyond the classroom and take nature as the classroom. Well, now as the school is progressing and we are going ahead and we think we will be doing even more for the children, we feel that, well, there are a lot of constraints in the Northeast when you talk about the challenges. We feel that even in the urban sector, forget the rural, which Abhinav has already spoken, and Joutishman as well, we feel that now that the virtual learning is happening, and we do not get the same kind of response from all children because the parents cannot afford a mobile phone or a laptop. Now, this is happening in urban India. You see, when the learning and teaching going on, because now primarily the 21st century education with the new education policy and with the pandemic, we are moving into the virtual reality of conducting online teaching and learning. And now that this teaching and learning is going on, this is not being possible for all students. Okay, our children are still managing, but what about children in Manipur, Arunachal, Tripura? They are definitely having a lot of issues. And when you say these are the challenges, okay, I've spoken about my school, my journey, our children, our results, all that is fine. But you have to take it on the other side that the rural schools are not getting the same advantage. But I think with the new education policy, with the NEP, I am sure with the vernacular teaching, matters will improve. But one thing I would like to request the government to at least give the infrastructure to the hills of Northeast, get the connectivity going, then learning and teaching becomes easier and at a leveraging for all between the rural and the urban. because it is we, the advantaged lot, think in Guwahati we've got everything. Yet we cannot think that the others are enjoying the same benefits as we are doing. This cascading and this landscape in education is come. It is here to stay. And it is going to happen not only just to Guwahati schools or the elite schools, it's going to happen across India. And we have to manage in a calibrated form, leveraging teaching, online learning and teaching going on, which we are doing right from April. The moment the pandemic started, we started as well. And believe me, we were not used to Zoom calls. We were not used to immediately get on and, get online. The teachers were nervous. They didn't know how to handle. Kids were nervous. Parents didn't know how to handle. But this is all a learning point. It has taken a turn to all of us because the pandemic is an opportunity for us to learn what we can do best during this period. And as I said earlier, I don't know how, but we've got maximum number of admissions to school this time in this year. And that is a good sign, I would say. But where have they come from? They've come from all over. I would say all over Guwahati, maybe Dibrugarh, maybe Upper Assam, maybe even Manipur, Nagaland. They're staying in hostels and staying. But when I asked them why aren't the schools that side, they said, no, ma'am, we don't have this and we don't have that. They don't know proper classrooms, no infrastructure. Besides DPSs and one or two, the chain schools, there are no proper schools where the infrastructure is really helpful for these children. So every parent is aspiring to give their children the best education. So they move out to Guwahati, thinking that that's the Delhi of Assam. But we find that still we have a long way to go. We have a long, long way to go. But I would say that, you see, these are the opportunities we have to grab. We have to take this online teaching to the best of, best of the opportunity and spread it more to the children by way of, by way of being more optimistic. And then their specific careers. We've just opened a career guidance cell, which Abhinav is knowing, I think, with Univariety. So accordingly, with the high school, we've opened up various groups so that teachers can help students in understanding the careers beyond class 12. And when we talk of careers beyond class 12, the only thing in their head is now go to Delhi, go to Bangalore, go to Bombay. But we try to tell them, try the Indian universities, which are coming up in a very good way. And or if the marks are really good and the parents are very, very aspirant of their scholarships being available from foreign universities, then they move abroad, if they do get. But otherwise, we encourage them to take over the Indian universities. And fortunately, 2 of our children have got 100% scholarship in this batch, from this batch in Ashoka University. So besides all the handicaps and problems, we are trying our best in the school, and we are trying our level best to reach each and every child to do well and to move on to various sectors of the career growth. Secondly, I would say that the traditional professions have now slightly faded away. Nobody wants to be a doctor or an engineer. They would like to do things which is out of the box. They're going into movie making, script writing, journalism, data analysis, and all kinds of newer ideas, which these kids say, but we don't get the training here. But we need to go abroad, or we need to go out of the state to get to learn these things. And that is where we need to have a skilling. I think, Joutishman, you can pay attention on this. We need the skilling to be happening right from the school stage. After 12, they can't go looking for skilling anyway. I don't agree to that. I would say, as the national education policy is also saying, vocational will be now part of the curriculum, which is a very, very good thing happening. And if we can do skilling along with their mainstream curriculum from the school stage, from the middle school stage, they're already equipped and they know what they want to do. And excellent that you all have opened the Skilling Institute, which is very good. But in today's national education policy, they have brought this up. I'm very happy about it. Another is experiential learning, which is excellent. And that is what Assam or the Northeast needs. Absolutely. And secondly, the other is the vernacular language, which will be very helpful for the tribal states. It will be excellent. And I'm sure the graph of the academic graph and results will go up because the allowance has been there. Flexibility in the learning and in the curriculum is coming in a very systematic way. So this is a huge landscape change, the paradigm shift, and these are the 21st century children who will be getting or enjoying the benefits of the 21st century skills. And if I may speak, there are a lot of skills which the kids will automatically get to learn. And these are the top 10 skills, which is complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, people management, coordinating with others, emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiation, cognitive flexibility. You see, these come in the school curriculum. You don't have to take chapter 2 and teach them there. And this will automatically come into the curriculum when schools think a little deeper and take these points or take the careers along with the lessons. So life is changing, remote learning is happening, education and working from home. From education, we have new expectations. The notions of careers have changed and broad skills are going to be important. That is what I would like to say as far as my school goes and as far as the 21st century skilling, education, learning for these youngsters in Northeast needs. And another very important way we need to leverage and bend the curve and make the rural and urban match together wherever we can manage by proper training institutes, teacher training institutes. That is where we will have the best, standardized education all over the country. But when we talk of only the Northeast, then we need to have these centers in all different states. And also the bigger schools should be given the charge of another neighboring school to help each other in knowledge sharing. And that way we can help. And in fact, this morning, my Round Square and AFS children teachers went and gave the flood relief materials to a remote village near my school. And these are the small things that they learn to do to create an empathy within themselves, a community feeling, and giving and sharing, because just education is not enough. This is what education should be. And these values are taught right in school besides the home. Well, they will go ahead, can do much more. But if we keep saying that Northeast has problems, yes, there will be, but we must learn to pick up and find the solutions for it. And I think government will do an excellent job with this new policy. Things will definitely take a different turn, and there will be great leverage, and there will be a paradigm shift happening all together as a standardized form. So over to you, Joutishman. You will be taking up a lot of training centers for teachers. Yeah, I think these are the avenues we need to look into, because the B.Ed is redundant. We cannot do that. We don't want the B.Eds.
I saw Joutishman typing it down when you were saying teacher training. I thought he was.
I'll tell you something, ma'am. The project for NEP has already started 6 years ago. That 99% people in education do not know. The government of Assam, government of India has already started vocational training centers in thousands of schools across India. Right now in Assam,
that's okay.
200.
That's so okay. But now they have sent,
that course is already but government is only targeting government for the first phase. So already 200. I am running 200 in Assam, where government schools are already doing what NEP is proposing.
Good. Very good. Like we have an inclusive school. We have an inclusive school. I have very special children, when I started the school, I had that unit going, and we still have a whole bunch of very special children, and we are kind of integrating within the mainstream school children, and nobody can make out, nobody laughs at them, nobody mocks at them. But there also we have problems because we need special educators. We want more and more training, and training and skills is most important. And after that, there's no looking back. Thank you, Mr. Vohra, for giving me this time to talk. I can go on and on. It's very interesting to my heart.
Yeah, I can see all of you are very passionate about the region and education as yes. Thank you so much, ma'am, for the insightful remarks. We just have about 7 to 8 minutes left for the Q&A, and there are a lot of questions in the chat box, which I'd like to take up now. Audience, I have my first question for Joutishman from Mr. Rakesh. He's mentioning something about, you mentioned about trained teachers, deficiency of trained teachers. So he's saying, how do you live with that, and how are you making sure that your students get the best teachers available in Assam Downtown University, when you are yourself saying that there is a problem of teaching staff? How are you managing that? So if you can talk about
I think
teachers.
Ankur, you would somewhere agree that this is not a unique problem to Northeast. Every university in India has the same problem. As per the UGC norms, yes, we do hire teachers, but unless they start, there is actually no guarantee as to they meet the norms. So yes, we have done a few things. We have now done a few compulsory orientation before the teacher actually starts taking classes. The problem that I was mentioning was far more severe when we started, because a lot of teachers did not want to shift or join us, as you are more of a startup. Now that problem is declined by 99%, except a few subjects that problem doesn't exist anymore. But yes, we have also developed certain systems, entire integrated learning management system, which kind of outlines how things are taught and what things are taught. So that kind of brings a lot of similarity between delivery, irrespective of the course or the teacher's experience. But having said that, there always would be a little bit of a challenge, no matter where the university is. Unless they start, sometimes you cannot be 100% sure that you are getting exactly what you wanted. So I'll be very honest, that's a fact. But that problem has reduced, and I believe it will be reducing much in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joutishman. I have, yeah, please, Abhinav.
Yeah, the reason why I wanted to add it is because through Inspirus education, we have two verticals actually. One is counseling and one is test prep. So therefore, I also need to hire teachers in the Northeast, although I have the headquarters of the organization is in Mumbai. So I interviewed about 60 different people in the Northeast because I wanted to hire only local people here for the region. But I saw a huge sort of skill gap, in terms of let it be only TESL or teaching English as a foreign language or math, and for all this, competitive exams to go abroad, whether it's SATs or GMAT or GREs and so on. I mean, there's a huge gap, so if you can see that particular gap, this sort of gap, you don't find it in the metropolitan cities or even tier 2 cities across India. But Guwahati itself being a very, very sort of up and coming city, we still have that gap, so we are still in that progress, and it's a little difficult. But then again, the solution that I found to it was that, we hired across India right now because that was the demand. We needed to get things quickly moving in the Northeast. And through the pandemic situation, everything being shifted to online classes now, the students have access to teachers from all across the world and not just in India anymore. So this is how you have to manage until that skill base comes into the Northeast.
I think that if I can add my 2 cents to it, we at Jindal also attract faculty from worldwide. So we have faculty from US, UK, Canada, and Australia who come and teach, and a full-time faculty. People are sometimes surprised that in rural Haryana, there is a faculty from Columbia or from NYU. I think this is more to do with creating environment for these people to come in and probably train the other people around them. So we have to create that environment to attract people. And as you said, Abhinav, attracting people from outside Guwahati definitely as a start. And then probably in coming years, you can develop local local teachers and local skills that are required. So that was my 2 cents. I just wanted to add with our experience at Jindal. So next question is from Mr. Mohammad Rashid Jamal. He talks about, and this is from Mr. Biswas, and I'll open it up to the group, and it is something that we touched upon. He talks about the access to internet and technology, especially in rural areas. How are you coping up with ensuring that your students from rural areas get education even in these tough times? So Mr. Biswas, if you can talk about what are the strategies you are implying for students who may not have access to laptops or internet.
Yeah, am I audible?
And then probably we can open it up to the group.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, so it's first of all, let me clarify that it's a genuine problem, because see, nowadays, even we have started online classes through this MS Teams. I mean, many of the other schools, they're using Zoom. So these things are going on. Previously, we used to do through WhatsApp, we used to send the materials. But yes, the problem is there, because we are constantly receiving complaints. We are constantly receiving requests from the parents that to solve this particular issue. The thing is that, we are getting complaint that many of the rural areas, the people, they don't even have a mobile phone. Okay, and for some time they take the mobile phone from their relatives, or maybe from the house just opposite to them, beside them. So they use their mobile. And many of them are having the mobile. It's a genuine case. Many of them are having a mobile, but waiting for the mobile to come alive due to the internet. So this is a general issue. It's correct. So the thing is that still then, of course, let me tell you that the government is trying a lot, and day by day, these are the cases are becoming less. I agree that we are getting complaint, problems are there, but definitely lots of towers are there and many of the connections are working good. Okay, so things are gradually becoming good, and we have to hope for the best. We have to be optimistic, because see, the idea is, this is at present, there is no other way. Now social distancing is there, so therefore home visit or helping any other type, that's a little bit of difficult game. So therefore this is the online platform is the only, so we have to cope up with it. Okay, so yes, let us wait, let us be hopeful on it. We have to rely on the government. The government is also trying. We are also trying our level best. We are calling up the parents. We are talking to the children. We are trying our level best to send them whatever possible things are there. Those who are not getting the, what is that called, the notes and this online, if they are unable to join the online classes, we are sending them the materials through the WhatsApp. Sometimes they are getting, most of them they are getting. So these are some of the ways we are doing. Yes, I agree, problems are there, and we are hopeful that this will definitely, a day will come, this will definitely be solved very quickly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Biswas. Anybody if has any comments, or I'll move on to the next question. There are a couple of questions here from Ruchi Rai, and comment for Miss Nellie Ahmed. She says, one of them is a comment, you are an excellent educationist, ma'am. Thank you for doing what you do. I'm really impressed by your work that you do with special education, special need children. Can you talk about the motivation behind that? What motivates you to work for them?
Okay, Ruchi, are you from Sanskriti, the Gurukul? I think she is a teacher as well. She was working with me, if she is the same Ruchi Rai. Well, I have been trained in the Montessori system of education.
Yes, she is the same one.
Yeah.
Yeah, she replied.
So hello,
the
Ruchi.
Same.
Good to hear you here. Well, I started the school with a special child, and therefore it was no big deal for me, because she is a deaf and dumb child, and today Kaveri, her own son, is back in my school. But the motivation part is the Montessori system and the apparatus prompts you to help our special children. And why we did it, because it has a sense of empathy when you bring into the mainstream with the other children. There's no differentiation. Each one looks after the other. And well, I think it's also another thing that you feel, it's from the heart. You want to do something good, let's help these children. And I find that these children settle down. We have excellent special educators who handle them pretty well. We have professional development courses for them. So they go for those courses, they enjoy all that, and they come back and give it back to the children. So they enjoy, these special children enjoy sports, yoga, music, and academics. And we are also affiliated to NIOS for our very special children, so they can give an exam in grade 5. So Ruchi, does that answer your question? We are very happy to be affiliated, and now we are encouraging our children to follow the academics wherever the IQ levels are able to gauge that. And the rest of them, we are helping them to go vocational way. Thank you, Ruchi,
Yes,
for asking
Ruchi
this.
says yes. Thank you so much. She says thank you so much. So
Okay.
thank you, Abhinav. We're just about run out of time, but I'd like to have one question answered from you as well. There are a couple of comments about the career choices from students from Northeast, and what do you see? How do you see them evolving? There are some questions about, are there any specific things that students from Northeast look at when they are looking at universities in Delhi, Bombay, or Bangalore, or for that matter, anywhere? So if you can talk about
Right.
that.
Okay, but I just want to just briefly comment on add to what Nellie ma'am had said. I mean, I used to work with special ed kids also at the Assam Valley School as a trainer, and I think it's the parents' mentality more than the children's mentality that we need to get over. Firstly, for even with a child who has a very little learning disability, like some amount of dyslexia or not being able to understand certain words, etc. There's a very bad reputation in society, and parents are very fearful of that reputation, just in case their child will be called, dumb or a retarded or something. So only when we get over this sort of a mentality, it's very difficult. We can't do anything about it unless then. The way that we can help them, and we try to help a lot of kids because Assam Valley is also a special ed school, where we've looked at children and we've suggested that they should not go through an ICSE board because ICSE does not help with special ed. Children, they give various accommodations, extra time, extra whatever, even scribes to write for the exams. But then we still, as an education system, we still fail to see who are special ed kids and what kind of learning disabilities they have and how we can solve these learning disabilities. If you look at schools, learning disability or special ed schools, how many do we have in India? I can't think of any actually. There's one in Bangalore.
There's
that
one
I know
in
of.
Bombay. Yeah, Bombay, Bangalore.
There's one in Bombay, where we are tied up with them and we ask the parents to send the kids to study in those schools, because they have specialized teachers there. So this is a huge discussion, and I think in fact we can have another, Ankur, if you will, we can have another of this sort of a forum somewhere where we get to talk about special ed kids, because there's a lot of importance should be given into this topic. But coming back to the career choice of the Northeast, I mean, it is typical of what a normal Indian mentality, where engineering and medicine is the way to go forward. And but then the whole root of Northeast and the culture and the tradition is rooted deeply into the folklore of Northeast. That means the creative arts, the design, etc., are very, very strong among children here. Because you're saying you dance, you create things, you sculpt, etc., from a very, very young age, and everyone learns this literally by default at being at home. And therefore, there's a lot of students also who go into this design and art and culture field. At the same time, if you look at the hotel industry across India, we have a lot of students who go into this tourism and hotels and catering and so on also. And in terms of the startups and so on, there's a lot of students coming up with multiple different ideas. A lot of students who come back to the Northeast who are doing multiple different things in agriculture. So that's another sphere that students are looking at now. So the evolution of careers are in tandem with the modern world, but the evolution of the mindset of the parents are not in tandem with the modern world, and that is what we need to work. That is my main work, where I spend a lot of time talking to the parents instead of the children. But I see this all across India, actually, not just in.
Can I jump in and say something? Ankur?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, the day before yesterday, we had a webinar with a professor from Texas, one professor from Chicago, and another from where was that? From Boston University. And we just had an interaction with our classes 11 and 12 students. You know, they had a real interaction to understand what the studies abroad are, what the universities are like, what career choices can be for tomorrow. What the career choices were earlier is gone. So what career choices, what is the mindset you can have? They were really, really so well modulated, and they gave a beautiful discussion about, and the children enjoyed a lot because they understood the new ways of this new normal, the new virtual learning, and what are the new avenues that they can go in. And I think that kind of interaction is even now better because we are getting the open world. Everything is on our laptop and everything is on the switch of a button. We can approach anybody across the globe. And I think it's better for the children. Secondly, the special children, I'm afraid not many schools give them admission. That's a big disadvantage. But we are very happy. Since 1988, I've been having them. Until today, we have about 77 children. And they've all kind of mainstreamed. Some of them have mainstreamed and they're going into the regular school, which is our main intention. And that's a challenge, which I love it, because it grows well into you. The children learn from them and they have a lot of regard, and they kind of help them. We don't tell them, go and help the child get up on the bus. It is they who come forward and say, come, I'll help you. You know, that is the kind of learning that should happen when we have these kind of children. Well, that answers to Ruchi's more questions. Ankur, I had a presentation, small pictures to show. Can you do that?
Yeah, I will do that for you. I just quickly want to, no, I will
yeah.
do that. I quickly want to run a couple of comments from positive comments from Prashanti Suvarna. She says, thank you very much for bringing up a different perspective from Northeast. Thank you to all the panelists for the wonderful work that you are doing in the field of education. Hats off to you. Ajanita Hazarika, sorry. Thank you all for the informative webinar you organized for us. So with that, we have run out of time. We are almost 10 minutes over time. So I'll just run your slides, ma'am.
Yeah, just to give an overview and
but
feel
before
happy.
I do that, my sincere gratitude to all of you.
Thank you.
My sincere gratitude to all of you for accepting my invitation on behalf of OP Jindal Global University, and we hope to have you in our future webinars too. Definitely, Abhinav, you have given me a couple of good ideas. Thank you so much, Abhinav, for helping us in organizing and having Joutishman and Nellie here with us. It was an honor. Thank you so much. I have got much more better understanding of Northeast in the last 90 minutes in talking to people like you. So I'll just share your slides, ma'am. Give me a second.
Okay, this is just to show what our children do, taking nature as a classroom.
Yeah, I will just do that. Give me a second.
Because the children lack the exposure, they lack the opportunity, and being in the Northeast, we are showing them the best they can do.
I think you can see my screen now. If
yes,
you can see that.
The first screen is the IAYP program in the far area somewhere in Nagaland, where they learn the survival tactics, is the IAYP program, the spirit of adventure. So this is again in, I think, US. They did a rafting across the river, one of the rivers there in West Virginia. This is the birding. We take the children to be conscious of the environment and how birding is done, and they go deeper into asking what citizen science applications in environmental studies, climate and biodiversity awareness. So efficient integration of media and technological skills within the existing school curriculum, learning beyond the classroom, nature as a classroom. This is the AFS intercultural journey and community connection. We are involved with the Birkuchi Prathamik Vidyalaya. In Assamese, it is the primary school. There's a government primary school near my school, and we all connect with them. So the children take charts and hang out in their school, and they help one another. Any more?
Yeah, the round square one.
Yeah, the round square ideals. This is in Jordan, where we got the plaque, as you are one of the member of the 33 schools worldwide. So we went to receive in Jordan, and there was a big conference from all the representatives of school governors. And this is the children who had gone to Canada for another round square conference and adventure trip. This is again, oh, so lovely. This steals my heart. Maria's Public School has a conservation, education, and community interaction center. So every year in winter, our children go there. They contribute towards their stationery, clothes, whatever they feel like. And we don't say no, just bring what you want. The Maria's Brave Heart, located in Rajasthan, inter-school camps are organized every year during the winter months, which generate strong learning outcomes. So that is Biswajit Day and Irani, some of the teachers who go out early morning, 5:30 for birding. We teach them craft and pottery making while they stay there for the 4-day trip. Then evenings are bonfire, they do barbecue, they enjoy, because, well, you see, in Northeast, we say, oh, Northeast, there's nothing much to do. So we take them out on different trips to make learning and an adventure fun. And by that way, they learn a lot, and they come back and reflect, they write, and they started making little movies. Can you imagine? These children want to do so much more after coming back. And then it's a round square. We have to call these schools. So we had the top schools of the country towards the north, like Mayo came, Sri Ram School, Doon, and all of that. About 55, in a batch of 55 kids, we had camped in this Gailpur camp, called in the conservation camp. And so these little kids are in a small school, very poor children. Here they're playing games, the older lot, and we're still connecting with them. And now we are going to make a water pump, which they don't have. So these are our community projects which the children will do. And it's not that we are saying and we're giving the money. No, the kids will come, they'll stay in my camp, they'll help to build it up, actually take the bricks. And I think round square, boys, Joutishman and Abhinav, what round square service projects are.
Yeah.
So that's what they do.
Definitely.
And so I feel happy to show you this.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. This is pretty impressive, and I must say that the kind of things that you're doing apart from the classrooms is pretty impressive and motivational. Thank you so much once again. We have run out of time, ma'am, and once again, my gratitude. I hope to see you soon in another webinar. Pleasure. Well, thank you, Mr. Biswas. Thank you, Mr. Dutta. Abhinav, bye. Mrs. Ahmed, bye. Take care.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you very much.